What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here. Welcome to day 107 of the 365-day graphic novel review challenge. Today, I want to talk about another Superman book. This time, I am returning to the official DC universe. This is Superman, The Wedding and Beyond. So I've talked about this quite a bit in talking about some of these Superman books, but back in the early 90s, around the time of Crisis of the Crimson Kryptonite, the creators working on the Superman books, they made a very bold choice to have Superman and Lois Lane get married. And I thought it was a really good idea. Their relationship had basically been pretty stagnant since Superman was created, and I thought it was a really good idea to go ahead and have those characters get married. It would have been a good change, a good opportunity to tell new stories in the Superman books. Well, the people who were working on Superman, The Adventures of Lois and Clark on TV, they found out about this and they said, no, you can't do this. We want Superman and Lois to get married in the TV show before it happens in the comics. So the people in the comics then had to find ways to delay the wedding, and I've talked about all this before. They eventually decided they were going to kill Superman, and they made that a really huge event. They killed him, they brought him back, and then they had the 4 other Supermen that they brought back. And I actually really like the return of the Superman and the reign of the Supermen. I like that story. Wasn't as crazy about Death of Superman and Funeral for a Friend and World Without a Superman and all of that. But after Superman came back, that's when I kind of started questioning this whole let's continue to delay the wedding. I understand that they had a mandate from on high. You can't get these 2 characters married until it happens in the show. But in universe, there wasn't really a given reason why Lois and Clark decided to hold off on getting married after Clark came back. His life was back to normal as Superman and as Clark Kent, and then they just kind of waited for no reason at all. We had a couple of stories that were dragged out a little longer than they needed to be. The death of Clark Kent was like 15 issues long, and then the trial of Superman was also very long, and those are stories that are okay, but I don't think that they needed to be as long as they were. But even when you consider those stories taking as long as they did, I don't think that there was really any necessary reason for Clark and Lois to hold off on getting married other than the people making the TV show said so. But finally, we do get Lois and Clark getting ready to get married, and we open up with a really long, unnecessarily long issue where Lois Lane has pre-wedding jitters. Of course she does. She's been engaged to Clark for like 5 real-time years at this point, and now she's got pre-wedding jitters. Most of this book is just really, really boring, unfortunately. I was really excited to see Superman and Lois finally get married, but this book is not very interesting to read. It's mostly just Clark and Lois getting married. There's no action here. There's no anything happening at all. There's no story of any kind. I don't mind doing a wedding issue where the supervillains crash the wedding and then, let's have the the superheroes and the supervillains fight each other in the wedding. I don't mind doing that. I also don't mind having a normal wedding where everything goes perfectly. I can have one way or the other. What I don't like about this here is that it's not interesting. Most of the time when you do a wedding where everything goes perfectly and no supervillains crash the wedding, for example, when Donna Troy got married in the 80s, that was one issue. It wasn't this long. They tried to make an event out of the most boring thing that you could make a story out of. I don't mind going to real life weddings. Usually it's very fun. I really love it whenever I get to go to a friend's wedding, and I certainly don't want a supervillain to attack when I'm at a wedding like that, but I'm not going to watch a movie about 2 people getting married and that's all that happens. I want to see some kind of actual story, and this doesn't really have any of that. After they get married, we get a story where Lois is kidnapped by some terrorists during the honeymoon, and that's also not very interesting. We have Lois trying to deal with the fact that now she's married to Superman, and is that going to make her subservient to Superman? Is she going to have to put her career a little bit in the background to help Superman? All that stuff is stuff that she should have figured out a long, long time ago. Since she was engaged forever, that's stuff that she should have figured out way before the wedding, way before the honeymoon. This book is not very good, and unfortunately I want to say that that's kind of been consistent with some of the Superman books since the death and return of Superman. I really liked the reign of the Superman, like I said, but then after that, the quality of the Superman books kind of took a nosedive, I think. Not like noticeably so. There were some okay stories thrown in there, but by this point, the Superman books just weren't as good as they were before the death of Superman. And I think that part of that is that the creators who were working on the Superman books had been for a really long while. They had been working on the Superman books since John Byrne left, and by this point, it was like 7 years that they had been working on these books, and I think they were all just kind of getting tired of it, and they wanted to do something different, and they weren't necessarily sure if they wanted to leave this iconic character who, for all intents and purposes, had only been around for about 10 years. Yes, Superman's been around since 1938, but this particular version had only been around since 85, so they didn't really want to leave this character who they were basically responsible for everything that had been going on with him for about 10 years, or not quite that long, about 7 years or so, since John Byrne left. So I can understand why they wouldn't want to leave, but at the same time, you could definitely tell that they were getting a little bit burnt out on the Superman books, and I'm definitely getting burnt out reading them. Overall, this book is not very good. If you want to know what happens, I'll go ahead and save you the money and the time that you would spend reading it. Superman and Lois get married. That's it. You don't really need to know anything else about this. Very little of this is worth reading, in my opinion. There's a couple of little cute moments here, like when Lois is talking to this one guy in the Middle East somewhere on a mountain, and then she finds out that this guy who inspired him to become a better person, spoilers here, she finds out that that is actually Clark whenever he was traveling the world before he became Superman. That's a cute moment. Also, Batman buys Clark and Lois their apartment that they live in after they get married. That's a really nice moment. Stuff like that is cute, but there's not enough here to build an entire story around, unfortunately. So those are my thoughts on Superman, The Wedding, and Beyond. A little bit more harsh than what I was intending, but unfortunately, that's the way it is. I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you did, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will be back tomorrow with a different video. In the meantime, you guys have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.